What if a single glance could reveal the summit you've been climbing your whole life without even knowing it? Imagine standing at the base of 5 mountains. Each one rises before you, silent and monumental. Each one promises a different kind of greatness. Each one calls to something deep within your soul. In a moment, you'll see them. 5 peaks, 5 paths, 5 destinies, and you'll choose one, just one. Not with your mind, with something older, something truer. Carl Jung believed that our unconscious doesn't speak in words. It speaks in symbols, in images, in the things that make us stop and stare without knowing why. When you look at these mountains, one will pull at you, one will whisper your name. That's not coincidence. That's your inner self projecting onto the world, showing you what you truly seek. This isn't just a test, it's a doorway into the deepest chamber of your psyche. A place where your greatest ambition lives, often hidden beneath layers of what you think you should want. So here's what I need you to do. In a moment, you'll see 5 mountain peaks. Don't analyze them. Don't think about which one looks prettiest or most impressive. Let your eyes fall where they will. Let your gut decide. Trust that mysterious connection between image and soul. The peak you choose will reveal what your unconscious mind has been trying to tell you all along. Take a breath, clear your mind, and remember, Jung said that our choices are never random. They're breadcrumbs left by the self we're becoming. Now, look at these 5 peaks. The first mountain rises sharp and solitary against a pale sky. Its summit is a single point, piercing clouds. Snow clings to its upper reaches, untouched, pure. This peak stands alone, distant from all others, severe.
Uncompromising. The color is almost monochromatic, grays and whites. The landscape around it is sparse, minimal. There's a loneliness to it, but also a terrible beauty. The second peak is draped in deep emerald forests that climb halfway up its slopes before giving way to rocky gray stone. The summit is broad, stable. You can almost see the path winding up through those trees. There's a village at the base, smoke rising from chimneys. This mountain is lived with, known. It has trails worn smooth by generations. The third mountain glows golden in perpetual sunset light. Its peak is wrapped in clouds that seem illuminated from within. The stone itself appears to shimmer as if made of something more than rock. This is the mountain of legends, the one that appears in fairy tales, majestic, crowned, the kind of summit where gods might dwell. The fourth peak is not one mountain, but a cluster. A range of smaller summits, all interconnected, ridges running between them like bridges. From this angle, you can see valleys between the peaks, each one a different ecosystem. Forests, lakes, meadows. This is a mountain of variety, of endless exploration, of paths that branch and reconnect. The fifth mountain rises dark against a stormy sky. Its stone is almost black. Lightning plays round its summit. The peak itself is jagged, dangerous, but there's something magnetic about it, something that makes you unable to look away. This is the mountain that tests you, that demands everything, that promises nothing except the truth of what you're made of. Now, which one pulled at you? Which one made something in your chest tighten? Hold that choice in your mind, because what you'll hear next might surprise you, maybe even shake you. Let me tell you what Jung discovered about ambition. He believed that what we strive for isn't really about achievement.
It's about becoming whole, about integrating the parts of ourselves we've left in shadow. Your ambition, your greatest drive, it's actually a map back to yourself. And the mountain you chose, it shows which part of yourself you're trying to reclaim. So let's begin. At first glance, the solitary peak seems simple, cold, but look deeper. That stark beauty, that refusal to compromise, that singular point rising above everything else, this is the mountain of the hermit archetype, the seeker, the one who must walk alone to find truth. If this mountain drew your attention, deep inside you crave mastery, not over others, over yourself, over your craft, over the chaos of existence. You are driven by a need for perfection that most people cannot understand. You look at the world and see how much further everything could go, how much deeper understanding could reach, and it frustrates you that others settle for less.
Perhaps you grew up in an environment where excellence was the only language of love, where being good enough meant being the best, where mediocrity felt like a kind of death. Or maybe you learned early that the world is unreliable, that people disappoint, that the only thing you can truly depend on is your own ability to rise above. Your greatest strength lies in your unwavering focus. When you commit to something, you don't dabble, you don't half-try, you climb until your hands bleed, you refine until the work becomes transcendent. Others give up, you keep going. There's a purity to your ambition. It's not about showing off, it's about touching something ultimate. But Jung reminds us that every strength casts a shadow, and yours is isolation. The solitary peak stands alone for a reason. In your pursuit of greatness, you may have left others behind or pushed them away. You might tell yourself it's necessary, that true mastery requires sacrifice, that genius is always lonely. But here's what most people miss, that loneliness isn't proof of your superiority, it's a wound, and the higher you climb alone, the colder it gets. In relationships, you likely seek people who can match your intensity, who won't ask you to dim your light or slow your pace. But you also might struggle with vulnerability, with needing others, with admitting that sometimes the summit isn't worth reaching if there's no one there to share the view. Do you fear that connection will weaken you, that love will make you soft? Can you allow yourself to imagine that maybe, just maybe, some peaks are meant to be climbed together? This mountain whispers that you are capable of extraordinary things, that your discipline and dedication will take you further than talent ever could. But remember, even the highest peak is still part of the earth.
Still connected to everything below. You don't have to choose between greatness and belonging. Yet there's something you may not realize. The very thing you fear, that softness, that need for others, it might be the missing piece that makes your achievement meaningful. The forest mountain, the one with trails and smoke and the evidence of human presence. This peak chose you if you carry the guardian archetype, the builder, the one who believes that true greatness isn't reaching the top alone, it's bringing others with you. If this mountain pulled at your soul, deep inside you crave legacy. You want to create something that lasts beyond your own life, something that benefits not just you, but generations to come. You look at success and don't see a trophy. You see infrastructure, systems, institutions, things that will stand when you're gone. Perhaps you grew up watching someone struggle because the structures weren't there to catch them. Maybe you saw instability and promised yourself you'd build something solid, something dependable. Or maybe you inherited a deep sense of responsibility, a knowing that you're part of something larger than yourself, a chain of people who came before and will come after. Your greatest strength lies in your steadiness. In a world obsessed with disruption and revolution, you understand the value of wisdom earned slowly, of paths worn smooth by use, of systems that work because they've been tested by time. You're not interested in quick wins or viral moments. You're interested in building something real. But Jung knew that every archetype has its prison, and yours is the weight of tradition. The forest mountain is beautiful, yes, but those trails, those paths worn smooth, they only go where others have already gone. In your desire to build and preserve and protect, you might be sacrificing innovation, spontaneity, the wild, untamed possibility of the new.
In relationships, you likely seek stability, partnership, someone who will help you build the life you envision, someone reliable. But you might struggle with change, with the messiness of growth, with the fact that sometimes the structures we build become cages. Do you fear chaos? Do you trust control more than you trust life? Can you allow for the possibility that some of the most important summits can't be reached by following existing trails? This mountain whispers that your work matters, that building things that last is one of the highest callings, that there's nobility in stewardship. But remember, the forest grows because it's wild first and cultivated second. Your legacy will be richer if you let some of it grow beyond your design. You are needed in this world. Your stability grounds others. But don't let the fear of disorder keep you from the peaks that have no trails yet.
The golden peak, the one that glows, the one wrapped in mythic light. Oh, you are driven by the sovereign archetype, the visionary, the one who doesn't just want to climb a mountain, you want to be the mountain, to embody greatness itself. If this peak called to you, deep inside you crave recognition, not the shallow kind, the kind that changes things. You want to be remembered, to matter, to leave a mark on the world so deep that future generations will speak your name with reverence. This isn't vanity, it's something more primal, a hunger to transcend your own mortality through achievement. Perhaps you grew up feeling invisible, overlooked. Maybe you were special and no one noticed. Or maybe you tasted recognition early and it felt like oxygen, and you've been chasing that high ever since. Life taught you that the world pays attention to those who shine.
And you decided you would shine brighter than anyone. Your greatest strength lies in your ability to inspire. You see possibility where others see limits. You speak visions into being. When you walk into a room, things shift. People lean in. You have that rare quality, that magnetism, that makes others believe they too can be greater. You don't just climb for yourself. Your ambition pulls others upward with you. But Jung understood the danger of gold. It's beautiful, it's valuable, but it's also cold, hard, unchanging. In your pursuit of legendary status, you might be building a monument instead of a life. The golden peak is gorgeous from a distance, but can anyone actually live there? Can you? In relationships, you likely seek admiration, someone who sees your greatness, who reflects your light back to you. But here's the trap. What if someone loves you not for your achievements, but for your flaws?
Your ordinariness? Your humanity? Can you let yourself be seen like that? Do you fear being forgotten? Do you equate your worth with your impact? Can you allow yourself to imagine that maybe you're already enough, even if you never reach that glowing summit? This mountain whispers that you were born for greatness, that your vision and charisma are gifts meant to light the world. But remember, the most enduring legends aren't the ones who became untouchable. They're the ones who remained human, even at the height of their glory. Yet there's something you may not realize. The love you'll remember on your deathbed won't be from the crowds. It'll be from the person who saw you crying in the dark and stayed anyway. The interconnected range, the cluster of peaks with valleys between. This mountain shows you if you carry the eternal explorer archetype, the seeker of experience, the one who believes that greatness isn't a destination.
It's an endless journey. If this mountain made your heart beat faster, deep inside you crave depth, not height, depth. You want to experience everything, to understand from every angle, to never stop discovering. Your ambition isn't to conquer one summit, it's to explore an entire range of human possibility. Perhaps you grew up in a narrow world and you could feel the walls pressing in. Maybe you were told there was one right way and you knew bone deep that there had to be more. Or maybe you're running from something, from the idea that life is supposed to be linear, singular, defined. You chose exploration because it means never having to stop and face the emptiness. Your greatest strength lies in your versatility. You are endlessly adaptable, curious, open. While others specialize, you synthesize. You make connections across disciplines, across cultures, across ideas that seemed unrelated. You bring back treasures from every valley you explore and weave them into something entirely new.
But Jung warned about the eternal wanderer, the one who explores every path except the one that leads inward. In your hunger for variety, for newness, for the next peak in the next valley, you might be avoiding commitment, depth, the kind of mastery that only comes from staying in one place long enough to exhaust its mysteries. In relationships, you likely seek adventure, someone who will explore with you, who won't ask you to settle down or settle for. But you might struggle with intimacy, with the deep, sometimes boring work of truly knowing another person, with the fact that the most profound discoveries often come from returning to the same place again and again. Do you fear missing out? Does the idea of choosing one path terrify you because it means not choosing all the others? Can you allow yourself to imagine that depth might be more fulfilling than breadth?
This mountain range whispers that your curiosity is sacred, that your refusal to be limited is a form of courage. But remember, even the greatest explorers eventually come home, not because the journey is over, but because they've learned that some treasures can only be found by digging deep, not traveling far. You contain multitudes. That's your gift. But don't let the fear of boredom keep you from the kind of profound understanding that only comes through commitment. The dark peak, the one with lightning around its summit, the one that looks dangerous, forbidding. This mountain chose you if you carry the warrior archetype, the shadow walker, the one who knows that true greatness requires facing what terrifies you. If this peak made something in your gut clench, deep inside you crave transformation. Not success, transformation. You want to be forged in fire, to test yourself against impossible odds, to discover what you're truly made of when everything else is stripped away.
Your ambition isn't about reaching the top. It's about becoming someone worthy of having tried. Perhaps you grew up in hardship, in struggle, and instead of breaking, you decided to become unbreakable. Maybe you've seen darkness in yourself or the world, and you know that pretending it isn't there is a lie. Life taught you that comfort is a trap, that real strength is built in the storm. Your greatest strength lies in your courage. You don't flinch, you don't run. When everyone else turns back because the path is too hard, too dangerous, too dark, you keep going. You have a relationship with fear that most people will never understand. Not because you're not afraid, but because you've learned to move through fear like it's just another kind of weather. Jung spent his life exploring the shadow, and he knew its danger. The dark peak is magnetic because it promises truth.
But it can also become an addiction, suffering as identity, struggle as the only way you know how to feel alive. In your pursuit of transformation through trial, you might be seeking harder and harder challenges, not because you need them, but because you don't know who you are without them. In relationships, you likely seek intensity, depth, someone who can handle your darkness, who won't ask you to be lighter or easier or more palatable. But here's what you might miss. Sometimes love isn't a battlefield. Sometimes peace isn't weakness. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is accept joy. Do you fear softness? Does happiness feel like a betrayal of everything you've survived? Can you allow yourself to imagine that maybe you've already proven your strength and now you're allowed to rest? This mountain whispers that you are capable of enduring anything, that your resilience is a superpower,
that you will rise from ashes again and again. But remember, the point of resilience isn't to keep breaking so you can keep rebuilding. It's to become whole enough that breaking isn't necessary anymore. You've climbed through storms most people can't imagine. You've earned your strength, but you've also earned peace. Don't let the addiction to struggle keep you from the summit where the sun finally breaks through. Your choice wasn't random. It was a reminder a whisper from your unconscious showing you the shape of your deepest drive. The solitary peak climber seeks transcendence. The forest mountain builder seeks legacy. The golden peak visionary seeks glory. The interconnected range explorer seeks experience. The dark peak warrior seeks transformation. But here's what Jung understood that most people miss. Your greatest ambition and your deepest wound are often the same thing. We climb toward what we lack. We seek in the external world what was taken from us internally.
The ambition isn't the problem. It's a compass. Follow it consciously, with awareness, and it will lead you not just to achievement, but to integration, to wholeness. Until you make the unconscious conscious, Jung said, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your mountain is calling, but now you know why. And in that knowing, you have choice. You can climb consciously, with awareness, not driven by wounds you don't understand, but guided by a self you're finally beginning to meet. Look at your mountain again. See it clearly. It's still beautiful, still worthy, but now you see it for what it truly is. Not just a goal, but a mirror. Which peak did you choose? Drop a comment and tell me. Tell me why it pulled at you. Tell me if this reading shook something loose inside you. And if you want to go deeper, stay curious.
Keep questioning, keep climbing, but remember to look down sometimes to see how far you've come, to honor the journey, not just the destination. Until next time, keep your heart open and your eyes on the horizon. The summit is waiting, but so is everything between here and there.